Oh, hello, and welcome to Aldente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
And I'm the gamer. It's weird saying, like, not having someone in between. But yeah, and I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have Into the Bog. So, a few things to get out of the way. Yes, Mikey is not with us tonight. The Tangent Police from last week got him. They really should have gotten like me or Gamer, but because we were the ones that were really doing all the tangents and such.
Yeah, but we're a little bit quicker than him.
Yeah, he is the slow,
both in speech and in mobility.
Yeah, he does. They caught him and bagged him. So while Mikey is awaiting bail, we're going to press on. He told us we could press on with his one phone call to us. I don't know why he'd send it to us and not like a lawyer or some of his demonic kin, but
it's fine.
Yeah,
we
yes.
Trust us to not do an episode without him. And then
exactly.
We'll go get him.
Yeah. After this, we'll go bail him out, and then I'm sure he'll be back next week. But yeah, we're carrying on. And the second piece of news I would like to bring up before we start this episode. So as of this episode's recording, like the day of, I got a package in the mail from one of our friends and listeners of the show, Brownie. And guys, I got Pokemon Black, like a fully playable cartridge, like game cartridge, and like the packaging is exactly like the image from the creepypasta, Pokemon Black.
It's a little concerning how accurate it is.
I have a creepypasta artifact in my house now. So I just like to go out here and say, thank you so much, Brownie. This is awesome.
Like, moved him to tears.
I cannot wait to play this and get like creepy melancholy feels for like dead Pokemon in Lavender Town. Hear that creepy Lavender Town music? Like,
is that the pasta that had like the music was even more fucked up than normal?
I believe so. I mean, it's been a while since we've done the actual creepypasta. Honestly, I'm probably going to go back and read that creepypasta.
Oh yeah, for sure. You're gonna have to.
I think we might have to try and figure out how to capture the game footage and do a Let's Play series on our YouTube channel now.
For handheld, that might be difficult, but you do have the
I do have the GameCube adapter for Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, so we'll have to try and find a capture option for the GameCube. But yeah, so hopefully that is a project that will happen in the future. I'm floored at this generosity. Yeah, it's truly awesome.
That was very awesome of you. Thank you, sir.
Yes. So now that that's out of the way, now that our news segment is out of the way, let's press on to the creepypasta at hand. Yeah, we're doing Into the Bog by MisterMooHL on creepypasta.wiki. And before we dive into the rundown and our thoughts and all that kind of stuff, I'm going to recommend this one.
I'll also recommend it.
I'm sure somewhere in a Tangent Police jail cell, Mikey is just thrashing. It's like, no!
There's too much good vibes.
They're not picking it apart enough.
Yeah.
But yes. So let's see why we have given it. Why both of us have given this story a recommendation.
We'll see if each other's notes can taint that one way or another.
Yes. So starting with the rundown featuring The Rock. So Nair, because we never get his name, goes out into the bog. Credits.
That was quick.
Yeah. To search for a girl who's gotten lost named Alice. She's clearly fallen down a rabbit hole and end up in Wonderland.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, anyway,
Yeah, that's
moving on.
probably what
Yeah,
happened.
yeah. It appears to be the story appears to be set in an older time period because like people are using like oil lamps and such,
Mhm.
and it's generally understood in this area that you shouldn't go into the bog on moonlit nights because weird things linger out there and could get you. So after some time calling for Alice out in those boggy woods, Nair hears her and turns around and finds her sopping wet and cold. He picks her up and begins taking her home to her mom, Mrs. Grader. But as Nair is walking, Alice begins making grumbling sounds that escalate to inhuman animal noises. And when Nair holds up the lamp to see her better in the darkness, she is changing into some kind of creature. Nair drops this wrong Alice and nopes the fuck out of that bog. Where he races to Mrs. Grader's home to report what has happened. Mrs. Grader doesn't fault Nair, but also grieves for the loss of her daughter, as she has been claimed by the bog. Shirley.
Is that what the bog's name is?
No, I just using the actual
The
word
bog's
Shirley.
name isn't Shirley?
No,
Oh, okay.
Finn. Yeah, that's that. It's a very short story. I think it clocks in at like maybe a page and a half. But yeah, that's the rundown for Into the Bog. So next up we have everyone tolerates the Grammar Inquisitions. At this point, I've got like one, and I'm just gonna read this.
I would hope so.
Yeah. If one takes a walk through the bog outside of town on moonlit nights, it is said that one may find a great deal of uncanny things. Take care not to stray from the common path, for the marshlands are vast, confusing, and unfriendly to mortal souls. Venture out only if you must, and never too deep, lest the bog claim you for its own. So, this I think this might count as a grammar inquisition. That's why I tossed it in here. This is a paragraph that pops up at the very beginning of the story, and then the story also ends with this exact same paragraph. And I get it. It's a nice little kind of bookend for the story. It gives us the legend of the story, and then at the end of the story, after like it says that Mrs. Grader didn't accuse Nair of being a coward, but also fully understood that she was never going to see her daughter again. Then it cuts to this paragraph again, like this exact copy of the first paragraph. And honestly, I don't think it's necessary to have, like, I understand like they're using it as a bookend to like kind of like be thematic, like kind of repeating the legend or like the local like warning, but I don't think this story actually needs this at the end. I think honestly the whole the last thing that is said before this this paragraph, which is she didn't accuse me of being a coward, but she also fully understood that she was never going to see her daughter again. I think that would have been like just as good to end on than repeating. Now, mind
also,
you, like
it's not it's not a full repeat. The last sentence is not in the first paragraph. The
okay,
venture
but
only if you must is not there. That part is added on.
Gotcha. But the whole the rest of it is like basically the same.
It's
and
word
it's
for
like,
word, yes.
yeah. So
But
it's like and I'm not saying like it's like, oh, this is absolutely like BS. This doesn't need to be here. For me, like I could take it or leave it, but like I honestly think that the story would be stronger if it just ended with like that she understood that she was never going to see her daughter again.
I'll say this. Because this is first person perspective, I agree with you.
Mhm.
If this was third person perspective and it was it starts and ends with those caps that are like similar, then it sounds a lot more like a campfire story where you're telling a story about someone else.
Yeah.
Which kind of seems weird that he would do that.
Unless he is like telling this to, but yeah. Like it does kind of sound like that, because like in campfire stories, you usually want to like start with something and then like emphasize by the end, like with the same thing. Cause like that's the zinger. But again, I'm kind of in this I'm kind of at a crossroads here. Cause like my go-to is like, I don't think it's necessary. It's not unnecessary, like, but I don't think it needs to be there. It's not necessary for the story. And I actually think the story might be stronger if it wasn't at the end. If this paragraph wasn't at the end of the story.
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be stronger in my opinion, but I don't know. I'm fine with it, but yeah.
So yeah, that's honestly my grammar position is just this one part. So,
Sure.
Gamer, I was about to say Mikey.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Rip. No. Yeah, Gamer.
It's fine. You're not entirely wrong because for this segment, I am going to be possessed by Mikey as I have a conjunction junction.
Oh. And next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
As I approached the tree line, I held up my personal lamp and began to search for the entry point. It wasn't long before Alice began to make these groaning noises, like the kind a kid makes when their tummy is upset. As I explained to her what happened, I could see tears from her eyes. Finn.
That kid was just really hungry.
Yeah. It also kind of makes it sound like the lamp is Alice. Because it says, like, I held up my lamp, and it wasn't long before Alice began to make these groaning noises, like the lamp itself.
Or Alice is a genie.
Oh, in the lamp.
Lamp. Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. And the reason Mikey Gamer does this
is to highlight all the sentences in the story that start with words that they probably shouldn't, like its, and, or buts, or in this case, as's as well, that I added in, because otherwise it would just be an it sentence. Because there's always better words to use.
Yeah.
Although, like, when I was starting to do this, because I had so few to go on as well, I was starting to, like, go through a rabbit hole of, like, Googling, like, what is okay to actually start a sentence with, and, like, some people are basically saying stuff like, well, Shakespeare uses front ands and front butts, so how could he be wrong? Or, like, if it's informal writing, then whatever. Or, like, fuck you, I do what I want. Or quoting stuff like, it was a dark and stormy night. Like, that is... like, that's been used so much, and yet that's grammatically incorrect, you know?
Yeah. Again, writing is not a science. It is an art.
Yeah.
So, like, it is kind of, sometimes it is very subjective.
For sure. But the way that I always view these, and honestly I agree with every one that Mikey brings up as well for the same reason, the sentences can be improved and made simpler, clearer, or undeniably grammatically correct with changes to the sentences. Because that's why I always say there's always better words to use in these instances.
Yeah.
But I will move on from there to my actual normal grammar, actually.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yes. I did it in backwards order. Either way.
Yeah, now that the spirit of Mikey has left you for his loophole of being able to, like, talk to somebody outside of the prison.
Yeah, that was his phone call.
Yeah, that was his loophole second phone call.
Yeah, for sure. Yes. In that moment, what were supposed to be... Was it what? Yeah, wow. In that moment, what were supposed to be Alice's lips and teeth had extended off of her face, as if reaching out towards me. I kind of feel like a comma is needed early on in that to fix the pacing of it, because it's in that moment what, where it should be in that moment what were supposed to be Alice's lips. Like, you need a slight break there.
Yeah.
And then my next and final one. So there I was, feet squishing in the soft earth as the damp smell of the marsh enveloped me. My problem with this phrase is the whole "so there I was" part. It kind of feels like it's a modern turn of phrase, and it feels out of place in this historic setting.
Is that?
But is it? I don't know if it is, but it sounds a lot more modern than the time of oil lamps. The term, like, so there I was, blah, 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 blah.
Blasting.
Yeah.
So then I started blasting it.
Yeah. It just sounds too modern to me. I might be completely incorrect, and I probably am, as I am in most cases. But, you know, there's ways to make it sound more fitting to the...
More old-timey.
More old-timey. Like, onwards I trekked, my feet squished in soft, blah, 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 you know. There's other ways to do it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that is the end of my grammar in yellow.
All right. I'm going to then move on to actual thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start with the photo.
Yep.
It's perfect for the story. It's, at least to me.
So do you?
I think so. It's a near night. Hang on. Don't fight me yet. let me speak my piece. To me, it's perfect because it's a near night shot of a boggy wood. So like you're actually able to see details other than like, so otherwise you wouldn't be able to see anything if it was like total darkness.
Black square.
Yeah. It doesn't betray anything from the story, and in fact helps illustrate the setting of the story, which is the boggy woods. So, I'm totally fine with the photo for the story. So why is it wrong, gamer?
You would be right.
Why am I wrong? What?
I mean, mainly just because it's not. The time of the story is later in the night. Is the long and short of it.
Yeah, but I mean, you kind of have to like pick and choose your battles when it comes to like artistic representation.
If this was if this is like an area near where the writer was and they actually took the photo, I would just waiting till later. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Although if this is just a stock image that they grabbed, it's very, very close and good. Like for the visual of the bog itself, it's great. It's just seeing this first, it looks like it's basically the middle of the day, where it's actually.
That's not the middle of the day. That's.
I mean, it's not. It's not just before night. I'll say that.
Yeah, it is. It's like
the sky's
evening.
Still pretty bright.
Because, dude, have you ever taken photos like at night or like during the like in the early hours of night? Like that's what this is.
There's blue sky up there, dude.
No, it's dark blue skies.
It's really not. That's white, dude. I'll color pick
Into
that
the bog.
and show you the color.
I'm looking at
color pick this. You want me to do that? I'll go in here, open this up in a image editor.
Okay, never mind. I revoke my statement.
Okay, good.
Because I'm re-looking at the photo and I thought it was a lot darker than it was.
No, it's really not. Because looking at this, it looks like when I first load up the story to read it, I see the picture. I'm like, okay, it's a bog. Looks cool. All right, I guess they're going to be investigating this bog around noon. Let's read the story. But no,
okay, yeah.
It's later on, but again, it's fine. It's just not perfect, but little things are.
Yeah. Nothing that can be who's phone.
No, except for who's phone.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's fine, but we'll move on. So my next thing here is keeping these thoughts close at hand, I gazed back at the soft glow of the village's oil lanterns. Before turning around and making my way downtown. Bogs are fast.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah. Making my way down the hill towards the bog. As I approached the tree line, I held up my personal lamp and began to search for the entry point. I began to search for the entry point. I didn't want to do this, but I had promised Mrs. Grader that I'd help look for her kid. Alice was her name, and she had earned quite a reputation as an explorer at the young age of 6. We asked around, but nobody had seen Alice for several hours, and it was already dark. I knew then that she had probably gotten lost in the bog. So this, clear. Like this seems to be set in an earlier time, like we kind of said it earlier in the rundown and such. And through the actual story, you get that with like I look back at the village, at the village's oil lanterns, and the character himself has a lamp. So, given what we given this part of the story, like these details that we get in the story, I could see this story easily being a good seed idea for Vossen. Yes, it is the year of the Vossen, people. So I, of course, am going to see some kind of like inspiration from a creepypasta. So I just like really, you could really like use this like for anywhere where there's a boggy forest. Like when I was reading this, my gut reaction through this story in Newfoundland. Because like there are a lot of like boggy areas in and around like the Avalon Peninsula. But really it could be anywhere where there is a boggy woods. It could be down in the southern United States, it could be here where we are in Ontario, it could be anywhere like in North America or even Europe or anywhere else in the world. And I'll go a bit more into that later in my notes about like where that could be anywhere and such. But in this story, there isn't a whole lot to go off of, but the few clues that we do have on the time period and the setting and the situation certainly had my brain storming a little bit. Like there's a little kind of thundercloud coming in through my noggin. So, but I there's a part that's going to be coming up soon, probably in like 2 or 3 comments that kind of relates to this. But I'm kind of going down by quotes. So, but I'll put a pin on that for now, and I'll go to my next thing here. After about 15 minutes of walking and calling Alice's name, I heard a small voice. Hello? I turned to face the noise and saw her standing there. Why did she repeat her name and then greet Nair? I get like maybe she's if it is supposed to be like a little kid, like you might not like this might not necessarily be a red flag. Like maybe I'm just a jaded genre savvy character like person. But I am definitely getting this one detail kind of like gave me early on in the story. It's like there's something wrong with Alice.
Like, you know why it did it, right? Because it's some weird creature that doesn't understand English, and it's basically doing it like the Predator. It's hearing him saying, "Hello, Alice, are you there?"
Yeah, it's repeating. It's trying to like acclimate to the language, or trying to use it as a lure kind of thing. Yeah, that's what, because it's parroting the character, and then he might have even like when he was calling out for Alice, he was like, "Hello, Alice, can you hear me?" Like that kind of thing. So like it might even be like completely parroting Nair here. Yeah, it was a little on the nose for me at the beginning, but I don't hate it too much. But it's definitely set me a red flag while reading the story. It's like Alice is not okay. Well, even when it does kind of show like, oh, she's like damp and she's cold, so like she's probably like falling in the bog. It's like, yeah, Alice is not okay.
I'm gonna say this, Alice. I knew Alice wasn't okay as soon as I started reading the story.
Of course, yeah, but I mean, like sometimes stories can like kind of like throw you for a loop. Like maybe this was actually just Alice is fine, aside from being like damp and cold. And then there's
website then.
But then there's another monster like that's actually stalking them. Actually, they're trying to get out of the bog. And then like it could have gone a different way, like other than like Alice being the monster. But again, I don't hate it. I just like it was an early kind of like on the nose kind of red flag for me. But that Alice was probably the monster. But I'll move on to the next thing I have here. I held my lamp close to get a better look, and ... In that moment, what we're supposed to be. I see what you mean about that lack of comma.
In that moment, what?
Yeah, in that moment, what we were. Yeah, in that moment, what we're supposed to be Alice's lips and teeth had extended off of her face as it reached out towards me. So initially, when I read this, I thought it meant like cartoonishly, like that cartoonish kind of thing where like the mouth goes right off the model, like from the side.
Yeah.
But then when it like says like as if it reaches toward me, so it's like, oh, okay, so it's like protruding out like a muzzle.
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
how
thing.
I saw it.
I know. Well,
I mean to the side.
Like when I read the first part of that sentence, it made me think of like a cartoonish thing where like in cartoons and stuff, where like if a character like smiles like in a certain way, their entire mouth, like the part of their mouth just kind of like slides off the character's head in like a zany kind of cartoon kind of way. But again, if as you keep reading that sentence, it does say like it's reaching out toward you. So like definitely it gives you more of like a muzzle kind of thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, it just my this is just me like comments like because my brain theater like definitely had like suddenly she was like going more like one of those like creepy like uncanny valley, like the smile like goes beyond her cheeks. I'm guessing maybe it's sort of like that thing that happens with you where it's like I shot the man, bang, a glance, oh shit. Like I think that's what happened here because it's like I read part of the sentence and then had that visual like very strongly like kick into my head. And then I read the next part, after the comma, it says, as if reaching out towards me. It's like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
So that's like, it's extending off her face forward, not to the side. Because as it reads, it's like the first part of it is like, in that moment, what were supposed to be Alice's lips and teeth had extended off her face. If you don't have the extra part of like, as if reaching on towards me or reaching out towards me, to me, that visual goes sideways, not forwards. But
Fair enough.
yeah.
We're basically in opposite positions here because normally I'm the one who is so far away. Sorry, the reference would have been I'm the one who's not so far away.
Yeah.
Waiting for the snake bite to enter my veins or whatever that is from that stupid Godsmack song. But either way, I'm normally the one who assumes things too quickly.
Yeah. I don't. It's just yeah. And again, and then like it didn't ruin the story for me. I just like
No,
I just had this like very vivid like initial reaction to this to what I was reading.
Yeah.
That I had to like bring it up. So, but I'll move on to the next thing here. I believe this is okay. Actually, the next two things are kind of like I'm kind of taking a pin off of that earlier comment for the next two things I have. Starting with this. In my shock, I dropped her, and as she fell, I saw her elongated mouth snap at me, her unnaturally long fingers grasping upwards. She landed in a puddle of muck and dirty water, and I began to run. So it kind of had me like wondering what kind of creature she was turning into, like whether it was some kind of like hybridy thing or like an actual like full-on animal. And so like my gut reaction was like initially a canine-like creature because like the whole like elongated muzzle and stuff. But then I started thinking like that maybe she's changed into like an alligator-like creature or something like that. And like given the fact that this is in a bog, I mean, we never get the like I mentioned earlier, we never kind of get a definite location, but I could easily see this like if it was like an alligator-like creature and it's in a bog somewhere in like the southern United States, like Alabama or Georgia or like Mississippi kind of area where they do have alligators in their swamps and such. That would certainly explain like that she's like turning into this alligator monster. Also, I guess this is sort of like connective tissues time. I literally just listened to an actual play podcast of a Delta Green game where cultists started merging with alligators in a swamp in Florida.
Oh, of
like,
course.
As I was like around the same time, like I think like a day or two before or after I was reading this story. So yeah. Again, it's the year of connective tissues and Vossen, apparently for me. This has been connective tissues time. And getting back and going, and the other thing I have here, actually, this is my last kind of quote for the story. This is my second last quote for the story, or comments for the story. I'm gonna start with this quote here. As I explained to her what happened, I could see tears form in my. I could see tears form in her eyes. Mrs. Grader was a wise old woman. She didn't accuse me of being a coward, but she also fully understood that she was never going to see her daughter again. This is strangely similar to an idea that, to the idea of Appalachian woods tales that we've covered actually a few episodes ago. Like I had a conversation with I had an episode with Adam a couple of episodes ago. And it's sort of the same kind of message that's being conveyed here. The woods, or in this case, the bogs, the wilderness in general, be scary, yo. Like, don't fuck around with don't fuck around in the woods or like in the wilderness at night, or you're gonna find out. Like it had a very similar kind of Appalachian vibe, so kind of also lending it to be used as inspiration for like an Appalachian focused Boston game, I would say. Just in the more southern part of Appalachia, where you may have like more boggy areas and maybe even alligators. Or at the very least, like some kind of long, like creature with a long muzzle that can that the person can turn into. Like this could be Alice, and she's like been mutated by a curse or some kind of a hex or something, or it could be one of the creatures themselves that are in those woods that are mimicking Alice, who has now been killed or eaten by the creatures, and is now they're taking on her form in an attempt to try and get and like infiltrate the village or what have you. And it's just like they're not very good at like maintaining that form. Hence why, like, while he's like walking her back out of the woods, she starts changing again.
Yeah.
Or who knows? Maybe he had like maybe there's a detail we're missing where like he's holding her and he just happens to have like an iron ring on or something. So it's just like it's burning the changeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the kind of my extended kind of idea, like disjointed ideas of like the story's definitely got some. It's short, but it's definitely what the details we get lend it to have some fodder for like Vossen games or like spooky woods scenario fodder. So, and then the absolute last thing I have here before I hand it off to you, gamer. The inspiration of this story. So this story, according to the comments on the wiki page for this story from the author themselves, this story was inspired by Lone Stones by Two Brainer on Something Awful, which we covered way back in episode 28 of Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Like,
it's only episode 28 of Al Dente Reloaded because I was around back then.
Yeah, like we've both read this story in the far past of Al Dente's history. Both me from the original episode 28 with Dr. Leviathan, and Gamer and Mikey read this on our through our Patreon show Al Dente Reloaded, when they were still doing Al Dente Reloaded.
Attempting to catch up.
Yeah, attempting to catch up.
The cave where it's like,
It was all downhill from there into a cave.
It's so long.
It is, but you know what's funny? It is also considered one of the first genuine creepypastas, or like one of the ones that like really like kicked everything off.
Honestly, I'm not like this is completely tangibly showing.
Oh god, they're coming for you now, gamer.
It's fine, I don't care. But yeah, like I'm not against bringing that show back to actually catch up,
because you guys only have like you guys only have like a few. I think like not you don't have a terribly long amount before you guys started like doing the show with like as regular hosts.
I think we got through like a quarter of them.
Yeah, still not bad.
Yeah, still. Yeah.
But yeah,
fun to catch up. We just have to get scheduling stuff.
Yeah.
We may have stopped doing it partially because Ted the Caver's long and partially because like 2020 happened.
Yeah, 2020 was pretty. Oh, but yeah, because what we do with those shows, for anybody who's not one of our Patreon subscribers, we would before 2020, the guys and I would meet up at my place and we'd record Al Dente Rigor Mortis, and then I'd leave the room, and they would do Al Dente Reloaded, which was like our Patreon, a Patreon series that they were doing to try and catch up. And so, like,
back to my house.
Oh yeah, well, sometimes it was at my house. Sometimes it was sometimes you guys would like leave and go and record at your house. Yeah.
Yeah, if there was no time, I guess. I think most of the time though, we went back to my place because you had to go work.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Either
way.
So
yes.
Yeah, if you'd like to see that, continue, maybe I don't know, leave a comment in the comment section below, and become a Patreon subscriber because it's gonna be behind a paywall. But digressions aside, I can hear the tangent popo coming through the window. So yeah, we covered this episode, like we covered Lone Stones way back when. Like both of us have read it, and actually for this episode, we both revisited the story. I read it after I read I reread Lone Stones after I read Into the Bog, and I believe Gamer read Lone Stones before and then read Into the Bog.
Yeah, I didn't read it word for word. Basically, back on that Reloaded episode, I did the rundown for it, so I just reread my rundown.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see,
Which gave me the basics.
Legitimately, dude, it probably would have taken you the same amount of time to read the actual story because it was only it's literally the same length as this one. It's about a page and a half. So,
story, but most of my information is just from my rundown. But yes, please.
Yeah. But yeah, so rereading that story after reading Into the Bog and knowing that Into the Bog was inspired by Lone Stones, I gotta say, I think Into the Bog is the better written story.
Yeah.
Just in terms of conveying to the reader the story in a smooth way. There are definitely some like kind of clunky bits of writing in Lone Stones that kind of get in the way of like having the reader have like a nice smooth ride through the narrative that happens, whereas and in Into the Bog you don't have the same issues. It's also, while it does have some similar like themes to Lone Stones, I don't think it's like a ripoff or anything like that. I think like honestly, this is sort of like a true blue. Like it is a story that was it's clear. Now that it's been brought up like by the author that this story was inspired by that, you can see it. But like, I would not have like guessed like they're in no way like copies of each other or like a ripoffs or anything like that.
Of
like,
course not.
But they do have like similar themes. But it's like. Yeah, so I think Into the Bog does a good job of telling its story, and it's neat that it is inspired by Lone Stones. Just paying it forward, basically, in terms of like paying it forward or like paying homage. Like you can kind of see the homage and stuff. Or like I meant like I mean more like that creepypasta is out there, and it clearly inspired several people, or like this author included, and the fact that this author like was inspired by that story to write their own story with similar themes, and this story subjectively to us is better than Lone Stones. It's like it's just paying it forward because like without Lone Stones we wouldn't have this potentially. So yeah, it's neat to see that kind of evolution of two stories or the evolution between two stories from two separate authors, I believe. So yeah. Yeah, that was just a neat little thing. Like I noticed when I was like going through the actual website for Into the Bog and looking through the comments, and having the author straight up say the story was inspired by this other story, and then like somebody asked like, "Oh, what's that story?" And then the guy like straight up gives you like the title and like the creator and stuff like that, so you can actually like go and check it out yourself. So yeah, kudos to that. Kudos to MisterMooHL. For that bit of humility and crediting, but I will take a step away from the microphone and hand it over to Gamer for your actual thoughts, sir.
My first one is basically so the kid's missing. Nair is tasked with the task of finding her. And my question when I was reading that is like, why is Nair the only one going back to look for the missing child? I feel like at least 5 people should have gone out because like it's already dark and she's been missing for hours.
That is a good detail that could have been added. Like,
hey Nair, you go find her.
Or like it actually, I yeah, like maybe there was a small party initially from the village, but Nair's the only like person brave enough to go into the bog because of the reputation it has.
Maybe, but
like that could have been added to the story. Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. Like that could have been a detail that would have been added and kind of again explained why like Nair's the only one, or maybe like the others are all like checking around the village and Nair's the only one who's thought to like, well, maybe I should go check the bog. I don't want to, but like everyone else is checking everywhere and not finding her. She's probably in the bog.
Yeah, just something little like that. Like mention that the whole town's trying to find her, but they can't.
Yeah.
So, I guess I have to go there. Yeah, that works for sure. Just something to explain why he's going by himself. Well, even in that case, if he doesn't want to go to the bog because he's scared, he would bring at least one other person. You would think.
He may or may not. Like it depends on like again like in that time period like you didn't watch a weakness sometimes. So
I mean, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm thinking with a more modern brain with like search parties and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that might be my downfall there. Either way, a little mention of something would be nice.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Then I like the slow buildup of the creature revealing itself. It being rationalized and like Nair rationalizing that she was shaking when he first saw her because she was like cold and wet, and like when he picks her up, she's heavier because of that as well.
Yeah.
While it's not those reasons at all.
Yeah. It's really just because she's a creature that's parading or masquerading as Alice, or maybe Alice is just like is starting to like metamorphise into something else. Like I do like how it's sort of left, it's left a little vague in like as to what has happened to Alice. Like, has she been transformed, or is this not actually Alice at all? It's something wearing her face.
Or like maybe Alice all along is like a werewolf sort of creature.
Yeah,
she wasn't really aware of it until this age.
Oh,
so she wandered out there and just started turning.
Werewolf or actual like changeling? Because in Irish and really just in folklore in general, because it's not subjected to Ireland specifically. Changelings are creatures from like usually from the Fae or some other supernatural like place that have kidnapped babies, like human babies, and replaced them with their own and taken the baby to their own domain for like either like raising them for some strange reason or even to eat them and stuff. And then the creature baby masquerades for almost their entire life, both, and it can be like they're aware that they're not a human being, or sometimes it actually is like sort of a it's like that kind of bird that like puts their eggs in another bird's nest to like be taken care of. Like they don't realize they're not human until they hit puberty basically, or like until they reach a certain point.
Yeah.
And then they start changing. So like maybe that's what's happened to Alice. Like maybe Mrs. Grader had her baby swapped at a young age, and now that like Alice is the changeling Alice is getting older. That's why she's like venturing off into the woods and stuff like that, because she's starting to change, or she's starting to realize that she's not human.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, when you started explaining the whole Fae child swapping thing, it almost sounded like a exchange student program. Until you said that they sometimes eat them.
Well, it depends on the story. Like most of the time, it's like the human child is generally like just taken and raised among the Fae.
Yeah.
Or for usually like it can be like for like non-diabolical reasons, but most of the time it's assumed for like some strange alien Fae reason. So
I feel like if they weren't jerks about it, though, like
it would be like
children would be the best ambassadors between humans and Fae.
Yeah. Have you ever watched Troll Hunter, the cartoon, not the awesome faux documentary or the mockumentary? Troll, but like the Guillermo del Toro Troll Hunter like TV show. They do tackle changelings in that as well. Well, physically and like actually in the show, like they actually like tackle the themes of changelings because like they have like the trolls like abducting babies and putting them in like a safe, like basically like a stasis pod, like or not like technically like tech stasis pods, but like basically these like kind of like little like magical stasis layer in their domain, so they have like spies in the human world.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so back to my note, actually. Okay, all that being said, that was the first sentence of my note. So, second sentence of my note. However, in regards to her like changing and all that, I expected the changing to happen when she got back to town to like attack more than just Nair.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. Like, did she want to be taken back, or was like if she didn't want to be taken out of the woods, why did she appear in front of Nair?
Yeah.
And like if she wanted, maybe like she was like I said earlier, maybe she was like struggling to like maintain her form. For some reason, like maybe she's like a newbie at it.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of incompetence to it. Yeah.
But yeah, all that being said though, it might be and probably was the fact that this creature is the kind of predator that singles out its prey, so it wouldn't want to be back in town to attack everyone because it's not that kind of power level. It's just wanting to kill one person.
But then why didn't it chase Nair out of the bog rather than like Nair just noping the fuck out of there and never? Maybe
I guess it's slow.
Yeah.
It's still like acclimating to its glamour body thing that it's using right now. So maybe while he was running away, it was turning to its full like bestial form, but he got so far away that he lost it.
Yeah, that's true. It could also be that like Nair just never looked back, so he didn't see it actually chasing him, and then like,
it could have been,
him out running,
chasing him the entire time.
Yeah, or like because like it doesn't even have to be silent in some cases, because like if you're running for your life and like your heart rate's going, you're hearing your earbums, your eardrums are just like beating, so you can barely hear anything because you're in such a panic. Like if he's just running for the safety of the village and not looking back, he may not hear or see that the creature is trying to catch up to him and get him, but he's just faster.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
But in regards to it being a singular hunt, a kind of predator that hunts one thing at a time, it made me question why did it wait so long to attack Nair? Because it like let him pick it up and carry it like halfway back before it started trying to sneakily attack him. Like maybe it was still in the process of possessing Alice and didn't have full control over her body until later. So like Alice's mind was still there, kind of at the start, wanting to be found and taken back home. That's why she was just kind of standing there.
Yeah, she was like resisting it.
Yeah, but as she was being carried back by Nair, her mind was like being eaten up by this creature, which was visually shown by it actually like transforming into the creature.
Maybe if Nair hadn't like brought his lamp up to it, it would have like eventually like it would have transformed like in the dark in like while he's being carrying her and like bitten him. But because he lifted up the lantern together, but it was basically like flare. It's like
Yeah.
Like it's sort of like that scene from E.T. in the corn stalks when like Elliot goes into the cornfield or in like the little like cornfield to like look for what's making the noise. And when he first sees E.T., like he has got a flashlight on E.T. and E.T.'s like freaking out and like and like it seems like E.T. is like a threat there because he's like has his hands up and he's like yelling at gurgling and yelling at Elliot, but really they're both terrified of each other.
Yeah.
In that sequence. So it's like it could be the same situation as like she like started snapping and like while she was like mid transformation, and that's why he dropped her. But it could have just been like not like a ferocious thing, but more of like a cock, like my eyes they burn.
Yeah, basically. I mean, even in regards to like it like reaching out with its mouth towards him, it could just be trying to give him a kiss.
Yeah, that's true.
Thanking him for saving it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just carrying it back, then all of a sudden you hear just like a little kiss.
A little peck on the cheek. Yeah.
But she hasn't moved. She's like, how did you reach me?
It's like, why does your head silhouette look like so like long? It's like it's got a snoot. Also, I just have to say this for the one person in our listenership. I meant E.T. the extraterrestrial. You're welcome, Adam.
Okay. Does E.T. actually have a name, by the way?
So here's the funny thing. The movie's original title, so E.T. doesn't actually have an actual name aside from E.T. I think maybe in the novel, because there's actually a novelization that's also like a novel like with a C that expands like the E.T. on E.T. side of things. It probably gives him a name in that, but in the movie, it's just like Elliot refers to him as E.T. Funny thing is though, E.T. in E.T. the extraterrestrial title is supposed to be E.T. as in Elliot Thompson, and the extraterrestrial.
Oh.
Because I'm pretty sure his now like Elliot's last name is supposed to be Thompson, but they during like production they shortened the name to just E.T. the extraterrestrial instead of like E.T. and the extraterrestrial.
I see. I mean, it does kind of sound more boring when it's just a dude's name.
Yeah.
Which also makes it sound like Elliot is the alien in that situation. Also, if Elliot calls him E.T., how did he come up with that name? I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen the movie.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry. It was Elliot Thomas, I think. No, hang on. Let me double check.
Vital information.
This is vital. Elliot's last name. Oh, it's Elliot Taylor. Sorry, not Thompson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Elliot,
son of Tim Taylor.
Yeah, Tim the Toolman Taylor. Yeah, it's Elliot Taylor. And it's supposed, the original title was supposed to be Elliot Taylor and the extraterrestrial, but they decided to go with E.T. the extraterrestrial.
Oh, and the extraterrestrial. Okay.
Yeah, and the extraterrestrial. Yeah,
doesn't sound like he's the alien now.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
What is E.T.'s? Oh, we actually do have what is it? Wow. So for anybody out there who's curious and loves E.T. the extraterrestrial, E.T.'s real
answer.
E.T.'s real name is Zrek.
Zrek?
Zrek.
Nice. He does not look like a Zrek.
No. He needs to be a lot greener, maybe like a bit bigger and like chubbier.
I mean, Zrek sounds like a freaking like a buff, like ripped alien dude.
Yeah.
Like a monster.
Or like
this little guy who's like
Zrek also sounds like a bootleg Shrek.
Yeah, that too.
Aliens have layers. Aliens are like onions. Anyway, those tangent police are going to be on our ass again.
Fine. The next recording is going to be from the Tangent Police jail.
Yeah. But yeah, before the Tangent Police start knocking on our doors and arresting us, sorry, continue your actual thoughts there, gamer.
Okay, fine. I've done my actual thoughts.
Perfect. Love it. Love to see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, on to final thoughts. Still gonna recommend it. It's a short story. It clocks in like a page and a half. I think you could maybe read it in like 3 minutes. But maybe 5, like 3 to 5 minutes. But it tells its story and is spooky. It's kind of what you want out of a micropasta.
Is it micro? I think it's mini.
I'd consider this a micro. Like micro,
really?
mini.
I thought micro was like 3 sentences.
According to the Wikipedia page, according to the Creepypasta wiki, I believe this would be classified as a micropasta. Oh well, actually, let's quickly double check because in their genres, they do have micropastas as a category, and in fact, if I quickly check it, micropastas, according to the Creepypasta wiki page, classify as a story with a story of 2,000 bytes or below.
That doesn't help us at all.
That doesn't help me at all. Yeah, I thought it was gonna be like 2,000 words or less, kind of thing.
Do I have to like copy and paste it into a note file?
I already have that. I do technically have that already. So.
Well, you have it in not necessarily just a notepad file. You might have it in some fancy file.
No,
is higher.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like check the bytes on it.
Yeah, on the file itself. If it's in a complicated file.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell does that mean.
Text file. Well, this one was 3,000 bytes, 3,674 bytes.
Okay, so I guess this might count as a mini pasta then.
Yes. It's such a weird way to do it.
Right.
Bytes, just words.
But yeah, so mini bytes.
I should have said that is they're the way that they define that bytes. I'm trying to cause pain to myself when I do jokes now.
Good.
Damn it.
Suffer for your own hubris.
My own hubris, actually.
Yeah.
That one I liked.
I'm just gonna let the tangent please take me.
Yeah.
yeah, no, regardless of all that, it's a short and sweet little creepypasta. It's got a spookiness to it, so it works for that. And it kind of, much like it was inspired by another short creepypasta, this one could easily be the inspiration for like a horror game scenario or something like that, including like Vossen or something like that, or Vossen or other horror game systems. So yeah, I'm gonna still recommend this one.
Yeah, I'll probably parry you for the most part there. It's short and sweet. It does give us all the answers, as it shouldn't, honestly, because like for example, Mrs. Grader, she clearly knows exactly what happened when they're explained what happened.
Yeah.
But was like just starting to grieve, like in the process of starting her grief. And it would have been extremely forced for her to tell Nair and us the name of the creature, what it does, etc. So I feel like it ended at a good and realistic spot. I'm sure if this continued, like Nair might have asked her what it was in like days later, like after the funeral and everything. Or Mrs. Grader may have made an announcement that this creature's in the area to tell everyone preventative measures to stay safe and etc.
Yeah. Well, actually, given like about the name thing, to kind of pull this into like, again, connect this may potentially to like the real kind of stuff that you hear about in Appalachia, and like the legends they have of like the things that lurk in the woods and stuff like that. They don't have names for those things.
Yeah.
Like there isn't like, oh, that's just your typical Kentucky tree dolphin. Like, no, they're just the things in the woods that will sometimes say your name or start stalking you. Like it's just the things in the woods or the things in the darkness.
You figure they'd give it something,
No, it's
to that specific thing.
Because if you give it a name, I think it stems from like if you give something a name, it has power, and you don't want to give those things any more power than they already have.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, but like that's like actual like kind of like folklore from what I've found out about Appalachian like stories and such. So and that's just like me kind of connecting the two dots, because this story has some like, again, similar to like how it has similarities to Lone Stones, this has similarities to like some of those tales. So
yeah, for sure. Yep. But again, all in all, I still liked the story. There was that little bit where it's like, why are you going out there by yourself? You should be going with others, or explaining why you're going by yourself. Whether it's, no, I got this, I'm a strong man, I can do this, or because everyone else is busy looking elsewhere, like what you suggested. As long as something was mentioned, that'd be great. But that little bit didn't really deter me from enjoying the story and being like creeped out by it. So I can't dox it points for that. So yeah, I'll still recommend it. There's ways to make it better, but that's every single story ever made. So
yeah. No, nothing can truly be like Who Was Phone. Yeah. But all right. Well, that has been this week's episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted. Whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. We're on Twitter. Mikey would be on Twitter.
He is on Twitter
as under the name E stands for evil. Whenever he gets out of prison, the gamer in yellow is at the gamer in yellow, but without that W at the end because his name is very long.
Yeah.
And I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah! And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon. Select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it would be like screaming into the void. And without your authorship, without the stories that you write, without the stories that you are inspired to write and post online so that other people can look at and get inspired by, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about. So thank you.
It is a nice endless cycle of creativity when that happens.
Yeah. And once again, thank you, Brownie, for gifting me a creepy Pokepasta artifact that is
So-
playable.
Theoretically.
Yeah. If you don't hear from us in a couple of weeks, you'll know why.
Yeah. Get sucked into the game.
Well, as they say, you die in the game, you die for real. But yeah, that until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Brigamortis. Sleep well.